And hello once more, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to another edition of a Druids Dozen. My name's John. I am known in certain circles as the Rock Druid, and yeah, I'm a bit of a radio DJ. I do the Sunday Rock Show on BCFM Radio 93.2 FM in Bristol, and I do the Rock Druid Show on astroradio.earth, www.astroradio.earth. Yeah, it's like that, and that's the station's kind of music and science blended into a seamless whole. I don't do the science, I do the music. But anyway, this is the Druids Dozen. It's episode, he says, having a quick look over here, episode 37. Good grief. And basically, it's just me sitting here going through my substantial record collection. I've been collecting records for years, dragging out some nearly always at random, waving them in front of the camera, and just saying a few words about them. So without further ado, shall we begin? Are you sitting comfortably? Good. We'll kick off with a bit of this. Whoops, I forgot my specs. Where'd I put my specs? There's my specs. I've done that for a few episodes, forgotten the specs, you know. There's the specs. Okay, have a bit of this to start with. Bit of status quo. There's the front. This is Whatever You Want, 1979. There's the back, with the rather odd penguin in suspenders. Whatever turns you on, I suppose. Pull this out, and it's primarily just lyrics on there. There's no merch sheet. And before I talk about the album properly, I was apparently, although I agree with Mrs., the artwork's not brilliant portraits, but it's supposed to be a lot of famous Hollywood A-listers from the past on here. I can identify W.C. Fields, Humphrey Bogart, Marilyn Monroe, and Marlon Brando there, but beyond that, I'm at a loss. So if you do know who those people are supposed to be on the album cover, then please let me know. Anyway, this is Quo's 1979 album. Followed on the two albums before it, Rockin' All Over the World, in my opinion, is really weak. And the one after that, just before this, was If You Can't Stand the Heat, which was a step in the right direction, but still pretty poor overall. They came out with this, which is a damn fine album. This is good. It was one of the last kind of hurrah. This one, What You're Proposing, Never Too Late. The last kind of hurrah of Quo before they started sliding into the dumpster of pantsness that they went on throughout the 80s and to this day. Anyway, this is a great album. Probably best known for its the title track, Whatever You Want, which was a massive UK hit single, top 10 I think it was, and kind of became a bit of a live anthem, a highlight of their set. The other single on here is the closing cut on side one, Living on an Island. It's a kind of a bit of a slower, kind of dreamy track, but it's about someone sitting around waiting for his dope dealer to show up. So, it's all right. It's, doesn't quite fall into the sappy power ballad vein. And then, like most Quo albums, you break away from the well-known singles, you go into the album tracks themselves, and you get some real corkers. You've got the two closing tracks on here, High Flyer, Breaking Away. Quo at their best, they're kind of heavy, they're driving. Breaking Away especially, it's got a real kind of relentless kind of pound to it that's high energy, not stuff. Yeah, you got your smiling face, bit kind of ballady, but you know, I can forgive the odd track. Who Asked You? Alan Lancaster pen track with a kind of, you know, the kind of sneering kind of vocal delivery, heavy thumping bass lines. It's just pretty good. You got there are two regular guest musicians on here, Andy Bown on keyboards, who was unofficially a member of the band. There were contractual reasons that meant he couldn't actually officially join for a couple of albums until a couple of albums after this. And then Bob Young, who was their road manager and a fair harmonica player, doing the harmonic play, doing the old kind of George Truss work on here. Yeah, just a great album. One of the Quo albums I play for pleasure, and still get a kick out of hearing it. So our opening one today, highly recommended. And if you want to get into Quo, they're some of the better stuff. You know, ignore the singles, get the albums, and this is a good place to start. Whatever you want, 1979, Status Quo, good shit. Okay, next up, we're going to raid my pop punk collection again. Here we go. This is The Young and the Hopeless by Good Charlotte. There's the front. There's the back with the Good Charlotte boys looking very emo. That's what's behind the disc. There is the disc. And here are lyrics. More lyrics and pickies. The wet dream for every 15-year-old schoolgirl that ever encountered, you know, well, back in the day at least, I suppose. More lyrics. I hold it that way because they're printed that way on that page. Thanks list, and there's a little kind of production diary bit on the back there. Now, yeah, Good Charlotte, as I said, kind of US pop punk band. This album came out. When did this album come out? 2002. It's their second album. Probably one of their better known ones. Band is still going, and yeah, not much else to say about it. Oh yeah, there is a load of good tracks. Let's say good tracks. It's got some of the better known tracks on here. The Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. What is it? Story of an Old Man, The Day That I Die, etc. And my favourite Good Charlotte track, Right Girl, which is a belting little kind of angsty fueled pop punk number. Now I say this every time I end up looking at one of these here. You know, yes, it's not big. Yes, it's not. You know, it's not earth-shattering, and here people could even argue whether it's actually punk. But you know, the music's well played. Yes, it's heavily produced, and it's targeted at its niche audience, basically, the emo kids of the era. But you know, it does it with aplomb. It's you know, and I suppose looking at it this way, you know, if you're living in a sort of like gritty council estate in northern England, you know, you're going to rebel against the government and being on a council estate in northern England. If, on the other hand, you're from a fairly privileged kind of, I think these guys are Californian or Arizona, somewhere like that, Arizona background, you're going to rebel against mummy and daddy and the school system. And that's what this album does. It's, it kind of, it does what it says on the tin. It's just a, the music's fun. It's well played. These guys can actually perform. These guys are pretty good at their instruments. The songs are well written. The lyrics may not be earth-shattering, but they've got a clever turn of phrase. And yeah, it's just not bad. You know, I recommend that anyone that's kind of my age that likes a bit of punk and has got a bit of a musical open mind, go check out some Good Charlotte or some, you know, My Chemical Romance. I mean, My Chemical Romance's Black Parade album's become a bit of a favourite of mine. But, you know, no, so I got into this stuff because being a DJ, you know, I'm sort of doing, especially doing some of the live stuff. I do mainly do be live works, mainly supporting bands, and you end up spinning the disc in, sort of like supporting a couple of pop punk bands. You're going to need some of that material to sort of like entertain the crowd. So I started collecting some of this stuff and got into it. But anyway, 2002's Good Charlotte's The Young and the Hopeless. Not a bad record, not earth-shattering, but you know, it's fun, it's enjoyable, and that's what counts. Okay, next up, gonna have a bit of classic UK hair sleaze metal. Yeah, there's the front. This is the Biz Suxx by Wrathchild, Evisham's finest. Brace yourself. There's Wrathchild in all their sleazy kind of glam kind of finery. Now, slide this out. We have a lyric sheet. And flip this over. We have it's the kind of catalogue sheet from FM Records. Yeah, and it includes things like the reissue of Restless and Wild by Accept, an earlier Wrathchild album, a couple of Black Mac Lads albums, After Hours, the legendary Amoebics there with Monolith, great album, covered that one a couple of episodes ago, King Cobra, yeah, and then listening there, is it, oh god, reissues of UFO, Diamond Head, State Trooper. They had a pretty impressive roster back then, did, oh actually, that is the, so I've got this one coming apart. That is the catalogue sheet. There's more on that side. Oh, including some cracking Magnum stuff. Torino, Tradia, Cloven Hoof's Dominator album. What a record. And then there's a picture of on there. Oh, that's a bit better. But there's more to that than this. More to this than that. Well, whatever. If I slide this out. There we go. Shocking pink vinyl. Good stuff. Now, Wrathchild, band out of Evesham in the UK. One of Britain's leading kind of glam, because Britain never really did glam rock as such, or not back in the 80s. You know, when Hollywood are kind of all Poisons and Rats and Cinderellas and all that kind of high glam stuff, as you can just tell by the image. The British bands, Wrathchild being the premier one of them, but you can include things like the bands like the Dogs of the Moor, Tiger Tails and a few others in that category, were kind of doing the same kind of imagery and style wise, but doing it very much at a gutter down at heel level. You know, kind of, if a Rat album or a Poison album's making love in a Hollywood penthouse, this is a knee tremble around the back of your local chippy. And to me, I prefer that kind of attitude and approach. It gives it a kind of gritty, yeah, it's very pantomimey. You know, I don't suggest for a minute that that Lance Rocket really, you know, kind of, I've never met the guy, but is a kind of knee tremble. Well, actually, maybe he is a knee tremble around the back of the chippy bloke. But you know what I'm trying to say is, it's more real, it's more earthy. It is a pantomime, it is a show, but there again, so is most music these days, boys and girls. But anyway, this album, I think this is their third album. I think they did about 4 or 5 overall. I think this is their third. And they're a band that still occasionally reform for one-off gigs to this day. But this album is a bit of a classic. The opening cut, the Biz Suxx, but we don't care. Very kind of punk kind of view of kind of the music business, obviously. My favourite cut on here, the classic "Nah Nah Nuclear Rocket." It contains a great lyric like "We're making love like Vietnam." Brilliant stuff. OK UK, New Sensation, Sticky Fingers. Every track in here is a kind of fleeting and somewhat satisfying kind of musically sexual encounter. Yeah, it's kind of greasy, it's kind of down at heel, but it's just played for fun. You know, don't take these guys that seriously. You know, musically they're quite serious, but image-wise it's just entertainment. It's just very, very good entertainment. Yeah, yeah, so if you like a bit of hair metal, you just like a bit of great rock, or just like some a band doing their own thing, I hastily recommend that you check out Wrathchild. The Biz Suxx from, I think, is it 1988? Probably their best album in my opinion, so go for it. Knock yourselves out. Track it down, listen to it, love it. Okay, next up, we're going to journey into time and space. There's the front. This is 1975 Hawkwind, Hall of the Mountain Grill. CD reissue, obviously. I have got the vinyl, but just dragged the CD out today. There's the front. I'll get the card out so you can see it more clearly, you know, later. There's the back. Pop it open. The fingers of life from the Hubble picture. And there's a better view of the cover. It's Barney Bubbles artwork on here, I think. Oh, Dave Harley. There's Barney Bubbles on the front, and it's the back cover that's Dave Hubble. There's the front. Now, the inner booklet of this is mainly photographs, which were a kind of montage on the inner sleeve of the vinyl copy. On one side, then you've got that kind of contact print thing there. There's the Brockman himself. Yeah. Now, if you don't know Hawkwind, oh, I'll read you the poem on the back as well. Let's have a look. And in the grove by Gayton Hill, Miss Mary Thong and Market Clatter, stood the hall of the mountain grill, where tables strained neath loaded platter, from the legend of Beans on Toast Day. Yeah, Hawkwind's is it 5th? I think it's their 4th studio album, 5th album overall, because, you know, Space Ritual recorded live, but it's very much a major part of the Hawkwind canon, as opposed to being an individual live album. Came out 1974, and it's kind of the title is inspired by the Mountain Grill Cafe in Notting Hill, in Notting Hill Gate in England, London, and it was one of these places where kind of round about the time Notting Hill had a lot of musicians, and it was it's not kind of the Notting Hill type upmarket Hugh Grant type area that it is now. Back at the time, it was very much down at heel. Had a large black community in there, very ethnically diverse and very rich cultural place. And because property and rents was cheap, it attracted some of the more underground musicians. And the Mountain Grill Cafe was where they went for their breakfast. And at various times in there, it was frequented by David Bowie, Mark Bolan, members of Hawkwind, members of Status Quo, etc. Just people used to wander in there, and it was a greasy spoon fry up. And this album by Hawkwind is their tribute to said meeting place, and it's a good album. Now, it suffers though. In my opinion, this album suffers from the fact that the album before it is a great Space Ritual live. The iconic early Hawkwind album, absolutely mind-blowing, ground-shaking, history-making record, one of the greatest space rock records ever lived. The album that followed this is the equally mind-blowing Warrior on the Edge of Time. Hawkwind, in collaboration with Michael Moorcock, the sci-fi writer, big sprawling concept work about the eternal champions and the eternal conflict between law and chaos. In the middle you got this one, which, although it's a good album in its own right, I'm not knocking this at all. I love this record. The one before and the one after it do tend to overshadow it. It's kind of it's one that gets overlooked, I think, my opinion, criminally so. It's a shame because from the opening cut, Psychedelic Warlords disappear in smoke. Fantastic chiming lyrics, and are you sick of politicians, harassment and laws? All you do is get caught up on other people's claws. It's got some angry, trippy lyrics through to the closer. You got the closing couple, Goat Willow, which is a kind of a very trippy instrumental number. Lost Johnny, a Lemmy Penn track, was Lemmy's on here on bass. Lemmy Penn track with which later went on to be re-recorded a couple of times by Motorhead over the years. Web Rider, You Better Believe It, which was a bit of a live standard for a while. There's nothing to fault this album, but on the other hand, there's something about it that doesn't quite raise it to the levels of Space Ritual or Warrior on the Edge of Time. This is the obviously reissue bonus cut. You've got some bonus cuts on here. You've got Paradox, 2 versions of that, which was the B-side to the You Better Believe It single. You have the single edits of You Better Believe It, Psychedelic Warlords, and It's So Easy, which was the Psychedelic Warlords B-side, which is cracking track, deserves to be on the album in its own right. But overall, I think that track was actually a leftover cut from Space Ritual. I may be wrong, but anyway, damn fine album. If you like your space rock, go listen. If you've never encountered this particular album, go check out Hawkwind, full stop. But if you haven't, this is a good album. So when you're collecting your Hawkwinds, go for the classics, but don't overlook this by any chance. I thought that weren't popping in properly. I just popped that in properly. Now I better get a move on because I'm running a bit slow. I've been waffling lots today. So anyway, All the Mountain Grill, 1974 Hawkwind. Okay, we have a bit of prog rock next. Here we go. Living Proof by IQ. There's the front. There's the back. Now, this came out 1986. It's a live album recorded at the Camden Palais in 1985. And I'll be honest with you, it's not very good. Now, I'll say before we start, I'll quantify that by saying I've never really got IQ. Yeah, don't get me wrong, I love you prog rock. You know, and this kind of 80s prog or neo-prog revivalism as the I hate that term. I just prefer this sort of like, yeah, prog rock revival movement or 80s prog rock or whatever. You know, Pendragon, Palace, Meridian, It Bites, IQ 12th Night. Love it all. IQ, on the other hand, have always left me a bit cold. I've always left me scratching my head and saying, you know, what's that about? They kind of managed to be boring and pompous at the same time a lot of the times. You know, and I'm not knocking the guys that are in the band. I mean, I've met Martin Alford one or two occasions, the keys player of this album. Nice guy. But his band, I just don't get them. You know, I've had loads of friends and other people try and explain to me what I should listen to, but they just don't spark. This album is dull. It's fairly well played, the production's competent, but overall, you know, the tracks tend to blend into one. I'll name you a few titles, but it's all the same overall. You know, you got The Wake, which is probably one of their better known tracks, Magic Roundabout, Widow's Peak, Awake and Nervous, Outer Limits, it all stops here. Corners. It's just in my opinion, it's just a competent blandness. Now, if you're like IQ, tell me where I'm going wrong. What should I listen to? You know, and I will admit, I've had IQ fans tell me that this album isn't particularly inspiring. Maybe it's the fact that this is the first IQ album I actually heard properly, that kind of tainted my thing. But when I've heard the other stuff, it hasn't really sparked for me. So, am I going wrong with IQ? Where should I listen to? Try and put me right. Answers in the comments below, please. But anyway, 1986, one I wouldn't recommend. This is Living Proof, live album by IQ. Okay, next up we'll have a couple of bands off the same scene. There's the front. This is Trial by Fire by Dakesis. Came out in 2011. This one. Dakesis, Dakesis. I don't know how you pronounce that. Never have been able to. Please put a comment down there. How do I pronounce the name of this band? Anyway, Trial by Fire, the 2011 album. There's the front with its somewhat iffy artwork, but you know, never judge a CD by its cover. There's the back. There's the bit behind this thing, Viking longships, etc. There's the disc. Actually, I think that this inner cover would have made a better front, but you know, never mind. There's the thing, and it just kind of there you go. Lyrics, more lyrics, credits, etc. Band pics. Now, Dakesis, however you want to pronounce them, they're from Birmingham. They play kind of symphonic power metal. Female fronted, female bassist, I think. Overall, pretty good band, and it's a pretty good album. It's heavy, it's but quite melodic if you're into bands like Epica, Sabrina, Alexandria, those kind of outfits, you know, Nightwish, etc. It'll be right up your street. It's you know, kind of loose, kind of, you know, songs about, you know, we can guess it's kind of, the album's bracketed by a couple of cuts called Shield of Achilles, parts 1 and 2. Other highlights, Wings of Steel, Broken, Valhalla. And then you got a little bonus cut of 440, King of the Road. All good stuff. The performances are great. The music's hot. The production's slick and smooth, but doesn't take away the band's edge. Overall, enough to make me overlook a slightly iffy cover, because I've known plenty of times to, you know, and it's not a bad cover. It's just that it's a little bit, I don't know, not my bag. But anyway, Dakesis, Trial of Fire 2011. Pretty good. Go check them out. They've got a few other albums out as well. I think they're still going. So, yeah. Metalheads, especially if you like your symphonic and power metal, Dakesis. Let me know how you pronounce that in the comments. You know where they are, down there and over there. And from the same scene, and around about the same time, I think this was about 2011, we have this. Martyr, another Birmingham metal band. Yeah, this is their debut album. Actually, I think this one might be 2009. I can't remember off the top of my head. And my glasses aren't strong enough to read the fine print. I might not find the information inside. But anyway, Martyr, their eponymous debut album. So there's the front, there's the back, and this has got a this is a digipack. So there's the band themselves there. And they're just a kind of double-sided credits, album credits, etc. Thanks to this. So another band from Metal City, Birmingham. This lot are a kind of more kind of prog metal. You know, there's kind of shades of kind of Evergrey, Monkey 12. Those kind of bands in here. It's you know, maybe Fate's Warning, etc. Pretty damn heavy. The opening cut, Sever, for example, just lays out this collection of riffs that kind of basically will bludgeon your brain into a mushy grey pulp. Other highlights like Lycanthropy, The Jackal, Arms That Crave a War, all damn fine material. It's like I said, it's really well played, it's competent, the production is top notch. Band kind of did another couple of albums after this. I don't know whether they're still going or whether they're now defunct, but you know, if you feel like just a bit of kind of, you know, great kind of, you know, sort of heavy prog metal, but maybe a bit kind of trying to think of the name of the, you know, early Opeth as well, maybe fits, you know, mid-period Opeth maybe. Just give these guys a check out. You will not be disappointed. Yeah, year unknown, although around about 2009, 2010 probably. Martyr, the eponymous debut album. Good stuff. Okay, next up we're going to have something a little bit obscure, but in my opinion, King Great, and another example of never judge a record by its cover. This is Stainless Steel by Stainless Steel on Bone Breaker Records. There's the front. There's the back. Nothing in here, but if you want to see what Bone Breaker Records' logo looks like, or label, it's there. And this is, I think, 1985. Doesn't say on there. 1985, that's right. A record that I brought after hearing a track on Tommy Vance's Friday Rock Show back in the 80s when this album came out. He played a song called HM Bomber, Heavy Metal Bomber. And I just loved the track. It's cheeky, it's naive, it's a little bit not brilliant, but I just like the spirit of the band, so I went out and found a copy of this a couple of days later, picked it up. Did that quite a few times with various Tommy Vance and Fluff Freeman shows. But anyway, a Stainless Steel. I want to say these guys are from Stuttgart, though I wouldn't stick my head out too far. But, you know, something says Stuttgart in my back of my mind somewhere. They are a 5-piece, just old school metal band, kind of early, yeah. This is the early days of thrash, this is the early days of Euro power metal, and these guys are just kind of part of the course of what was coming off that scene at the time. Shades of, got shades of Judas Priest, Accept, early Halloween in here, you know, kind of Sinner, etc. That kind of fast, but yeah, they haven't got there's no death grunty vocals. They're kind of almost like a Rob Halford, actually a Germanic Rob Halford, without kind of quite the range. Actually, so it's probably nothing quite like Rob Halford at all. But anyway, just a good album. Cuts to look out for. I mentioned Heavy Metal Bomber, Angel of Death, Hell on Earth, No Tomorrow, Lost Games, Power Every Hour, the opening cut on the second song, or PE Hour, which gives me shuddering horrors of running around in a plinth soles and shorts in a freezing cold school gym trying to climb ropes as a kid. Yeah, well, I did get into sports later, but as a younger kid, no. Anyway, so but it's Power Every Hour, not Physical Education Every Hour. Yeah, it's just a good record. I don't know whether this has had a modern reissue on CD or digital. I know out in the wild there's some vinyl rips floating around through traders' sites, etc. And I have seen copies of this going on collectors' websites and in, you know, kind of magazines, etc., adverts and eBay, etc., for about 15 quid. I wouldn't say it's worth that much, but it's worth picking up if you get a chance. You can see a copy a bit cheaper, because it's just a good fun, no nonsense album that's, you know, it's not earth-shattering, it's not the greatest metal album of all time, but it's far from the worst, and it's pretty typical of a kind of the burgeoning early European kind of power and thrash metal scenes. And also, like I said, front cover painting, Detlef Braun. Now he looks like he's got his hair brushing out for that one. It's all right, I suppose, but nothing. Yeah, again, it's not going to win the Turner Prize, is it? Anyway, yeah, Stainless Steel by Stainless Steel. That's 1985. Okay, we'll have a bit more prog rock next. Yeah, there's the front. This is 2007's Vision On by Tim Burness. There's the back. nothing behind the disc. There is the disc, and just pop out the booklet. Sort of track credits and lyrics, because there's a lot of instrumental stuff on this album. Actually, there's other album that's a bit more instrumental, but there's lyrics. Yeah, Tim Burness, prog rock guitar playing fellow and vocalist, had a band in the early 80s called, at the time when IQ and Marillion and that were around. He had a band called Burness. Band I saw live, I believe, if I remember rightly, they were supporting Pendragon. But unlike a lot of the other bands, I don't think they ever actually recorded a full-blown album. They did some cassette tapes and that, but I don't think they ever got anything down on vinyl. Tell me if I'm wrong, because I'd love to hear some Burness stuff. I've never heard any. I've seen them live, but never actually owned any of their material. And Tim Burness kind of was their main man. And then, when the band fell apart, he did a bit of session work, but went solo, and now lives down on the south coast of England. Kind of, well, his main job is working in alternative medicine, massage therapy or something, or is it essential oil, something like that. He works in anyway. But he still keeps his solo music career going, although he's not very prolific either recording or or gigging. He gigs occasionally. I've got 2 albums by this guy, and they're about 15 years apart. So no, not 15. It wouldn't be 15. It would be about 8 years apart. So overall, not a lot of the most prolific guy, but he's quite good. Tracks on here. If you're into kind of your not a Steve Hillage kind of stuff. He's got big Steve Hillage influence running through him. Like I said, he's that kind of border between psychedelia and prog rock. Can You Hack It, which is kind of like a Steve Hackett type track, obviously. Undercurrents, Triumph of the Soul, which is quite a trippy, Away with the Fairies number in a good way. Space and Time. Here Comes the Great Collapse, which is the classic epic length track on the album. There's some stormy guitar work, care of Mr. Burness here. It's just a great album from a really talented guy that deserves to be better recognised. So, is stuff still available? He's a very accessible chap. If you want to hit him up online by Facebook or by his website or whatever, burness.com, approach him, purchase an album or 2, and get to know the guy's work, because it's worth a listen, especially if you're into your kind of Steve Hillages and your Gongs and your Eggs and all those kind of bands. Vision On, Tim Burness, 2007. And from one great guitarist to another. There's the front. This is Corridors of Power by Gazza Moore, 1982. There's the front. There is the back. No, there's no inner sleeve or anything like that with this. Gary Moore, Corridors of Power, in my opinion, Gazza Moore's finest 45 minutes. This album is just immense. You know, I've mentioned this when Gary Moore's come up a couple of times on this show. Not a big fan of his work with Thin Lizzy. I don't think he's a very heavy-handed, atomically fast guitarist. He was too heavy and too fast for Thin Lizzy, and I really don't like his blues work. He's just not got the right style for blues. The guy can play, God can this guy play, but in my opinion, he can't play blues. Not to my satisfaction, anyway. But when it comes to over the top, in your face, screamingly intense guitar heavy metal, Morsey has few peers, if any. And of all his kind of run of metal albums from the through the early 80s throughout the 80s, this, in my opinion, is one of, if not the high point of his career. Yeah, it starts off with a kind of the mid-pace, don't take me for a loser. It's got then followed by the kind of sort of like Always Gonna Love You, which is a bit of a ballad. He does do ballads occasionally. Then you got the first real killer cut, the version of Free's Wishing Well, which you know, kind of it's just brilliant. You know, that da na 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 na. Here Morsey playing with maximum distortion on his Strat and squealing it all the way up and down, but also kind of treating the song with respect at the same time. Absolutely storming stuff. Gonna Break My Heart Again, Falling in Love with You, they're okay. Then you've got, then it really kicks off. End of the World. A track that starts with about a 3-minute guitar solo, just no other band, just Gary Moore on his Strat, absolutely shredding like a bastard. It's some of the most impressive, forget Van Halen's Eruption. Gaz Moore's intro to End of the World, in my opinion, is just jaw-droppingly, not just in what the guy's doing technically, but just in the audacity of him doing it. You know, this should be, it is every kind of heavy metal guitarist wank off you'll ever hear, but done to perfection. You know, then goes into Rockin' Every Night, a superb head. Oh, then you got the rest of the track, The End of the World itself, which is song about nuclear warfare with a cracking riff. And Gary Moore's wasn't a bad vocalist either. And then he goes into Rockin' Every Night, real head-banging hard rock number. Cold Hearted, which is kind of slower but heavy, kind of, it's almost blues without being blues. That's as close to Gary Moore could get to blues without kind of screwing up, in my opinion. And then I Can't Wait Until Tomorrow, big anthemic kind of epic track talking about hopes for the future. Overall, an amazing album. When you realise that he's joined by Ian Pace and Deep Purple on drums, Neil Murray from Whitesnake on bass, and Tom Airey on keyboards, with additional vocals by Jack Bruce, you know that this guy's kind of on form, and this is a cracking album. I hastily recommend that all guitar players listen to it. I hastily recommend all metalheads listen to it, and all the people that like Gary Moore's blues material should listen to it, because this is what he's best at. His blues albums are iffy at best. Gary Moore's metal albums are to die for. Still available, go get. 1981, that Corridors of Power. And we got our final CD for the day. We're going to go to Canada. This is Tribune and an album called Elder Law, The Dark Arts. Yeah, nothing to do with Harry Potter. Pre-Harry Potter? No, it wouldn't have been 2012, so maybe they did get the name of Dark Arts and Potter, I don't know. Anyway, there's the front. There's the back. Folds out into a nice triptych sleeve there. There's the full triptych. You see? There's the disc. There's the inevitable large fold out thing, lyrics, credits, etc. And there's the press release details. Yeah. Now, this lot are a Canadian metal band. They're Canadian progressive metal. So when did this album come out? I'll say 2012. Get in there, get in there. He doesn't want to go home. Oh, I'm having all fingers and thumbs today, you know. That's it. In he goes. There he goes. Go home. Yeah, 2012 this one came out. And, guys, it's very metal. It's Canadian. Again, progressive metal, but with a bit of a kind of death metal edge to it. Resulting in something that's quite complicated, quite heavy, and really quite listenable. To be honest with you, I've forgotten about this album, so I dragged it out the other day to listen to it today. So I gave it a spin and reacquainted myself with it, and overall, I'm just very, very impressed. I particularly like the opening cut. It came from the Swamps, belting tune. But then you got other stuff. The World's Greatest Cynic, Wheeler Black, Man on the Outside, the Chemistry of Rise. Bear with me a minute. Splash of water, I think, as well. Yeah, just a great album. No real weak points on it. It's extremely well played by yeah, just a great album. I think it was a self-released one. This one, I don't think it was a Corpse Corrosion music. Yeah, but overall, pretty damn good. Now, I don't know if this band is still together. I know they released another couple of albums around, you know, I think there's one before and one after this that I know of. May still be going. I don't know, but overall, it's pretty good. I've got to take this out again, haven't I? I want to put especially. Right, there we go. Here we go. No, I was looking for the band members' names, but they're not on here, and I've got to get this thing out again. Oh yeah, I've got to say a special big up to the two guitarists, Terry Anderson and Sean Cully, on this. I want to check their names because their names are worthy of checking, because two fine performances. The rest of the band are on good form as well, making for a little probably overlooked metal gem. that people should really check out. Don't know if it's still going to be available, but like I said, have a look. You may get lucky, and if you do get lucky, I think you will enjoy. Yeah, 2012 Elder Lord of Dark Arts by Tribune, all the way from Canada. Leads us on to the final vinyl, and in my opinion, one of my favourite bands, and in my opinion the best album that particular band ever did. So hence what you're about to hear is going to be very biased indeed, because I can love this album. Here we go. Judas Priest, Scream for Vengeance, 1982. I'm looking at the time, and I've only got about 5 minutes left, so I don't want to go on too long, because I could spend hours and hours and hours dissecting this album, raving about how it's genius. There's the front, there's the back, there's the mighty priests themselves with the credits. There's the lyric sheet. Now, I have had some interesting debates. Oh, what's in here? That's right, just a letter that I tucked, completely unrelated, I tucked in. Now, I love Judas Priest. When it comes to that kind of classic British metal, I've always loved Priest. I've always preferred Priest over Maiden. Not taking anything away from Maiden, it's just that Priest have always given me a wow factor that Maiden may not have all the time. And that's not knocking Maiden. I've got most of Maiden's albums, and up until fairly recently I've got most of Maiden's albums. I think they've lost the ball a bit over the last 10 years or so. But anyway, but Priest, apart from the Owens period, have never let me down. Yeah, there are some albums that are better than others, and I have sat around debating with fellow Priest fans for a long time. Fun debates, not heated ones, but fun debates about what is the best Priest album. I always wrote this one. Some people say British Steel. There are other ones in the mix, but I got into Priest around about British Steel. Incredible record. Point of Entry, the one that came after it, not quite so good, quite touching bases. And I've recently read Rob Halford's Confessions autobiography, and he mentions in there that, looking back at it, even the band themselves think that they weren't quite on form on Point of Entry. But then they went off to Ibiza, locked themselves in the studio, and came out with this. One of the greatest metal albums ever. From the opening cut, the instrumental Hellion, leads into the Storming Electric Eye, a song about spy satellites, right through to the anthemic Devil's Child at the end. There is not a weak moment on this record. Has the hit singles Riding in the Wind, and You Got Another Thing Coming. But it's when I tell you, in my opinion, those two tracks are probably some of the weaker tracks on the album. Bloodstone, Pain and Pleasure, Take These Chains Off My Heart. As I said, my Devil's Child is one of my favourite cuts. The title cut, so fast, heavy and intense. I mean, no wonder a lot of the thrash bands, your Metallicas and your Anthraxes and your Slayers, looked upon this album as being the trademark for speed and power and heaviness that the benchmark they work from. This is thrash metal before in places. This album is thrash metal before thrash metal became thrash metal. There isn't a weak moment on this album. The two guitarists, Glenn Tipton and KK Downing, are locked together like Siamese twins. Swapping riffs, harmony work, blistering dueling solos, rhythm section, is it Dave Hollandy and Hull? I think criminally overlooked members of Judas Priest hold the whole thing together. Like, they are the glue that makes Priest work. Then you got the cream of the crop. You got Rob Alford, air-raid, distinctive, wailing, screaming, high-pitched vocals, insanely fast and articulate delivery. The guy is a genius. This is a band of genii working together to make one of the finest heavy metal records ever. Yes, I'm waxing lyrical, and I'm going to wind this up now because, one, I've just gone over the hour mark, and two, I could be here for 3 hours just giving you a track by track breakdown of why this album is great. But I'm not going to do that. If you've heard it, you'll understand exactly where I'm coming from. If you haven't heard it, why not? This album is one of the greatest metal albums of all time. If you're a metalhead, you've not got this album. Look, go online now. I know a lot of the shops are shut in the UK, but wherever you are in the world, go online, order a copy. You know, send your grandmother to get one if you have to. It is still available, and you will not regret. Yeah, 1982, Judas Priest, Scream for Vengeance, a work of absolute metal genius. So that's it for this week, peeps. I hope you've enjoyed. As always, I'll put links to the radio shows down in the comments. That's down there on Facebook. It's going to be over there on down there on YouTube, over there on Facebook. If you want to agree with me, disagree with me, give me your feedback on any of the things I've talked about. I mean, IQ, maybe I'm a bit controversial by saying they're a band I never got into. Tell me where I should. Likes and subscriptions are helpful. I'm not trying to make money out of this channel, even if I do get over the minimum number of subscribers, which I'm getting fairly near. I have no intention of monetising because this is a hobby. This is just something I do to kill a couple of hours on a Saturday afternoon. You know, I don't want to make money out of this, you know, so but it does help spread the word. So like them, subscribe if possible, tell your mates, and yeah, and until next week, peeps, I'm out of here. Bye.